Hi, my name is Melissa Reyes, and my presentation is on multiple sclerosis, which we'll probably just refer to as MS for short. So what is multiple sclerosis? So multiple sclerosis actually does not have a known cause as of right now, but what it basically does is that the immune system will mistakenly go on offense and attack the central nervous system, which consists of the brain and the spinal cord. So it will attack the central nervous system by eating away at the protective coating around the neurons, which is known as myelin. And without the myelin, the neuronal signals get jammed up and don't end up in the correct place, their final destination in other words, which is how MS patients end up with unpredictable symptoms that can vary. So I included some symptoms in the presentation. Symptoms can vary, such as numbness, blindness, mood changes, memory trouble, or even something like paralysis. There are two types of MS. The first one is known as relapsing remitting MS, which is where a person will experience sudden new symptoms, just really randomly, and they'll have periods of time where the symptoms can disappear partially or they can disappear completely. And then the second type of MS is known as progressive MS. And with this one, it's just what it sounds like. So a person will have gradual, ongoing loss of functions. So as of right now, for the last 12 to 15 years, there's been ongoing treatment, and it varies from injections to medicines to drugs. So the one that I'll focus on is known as interferon beta, which is an injection. And what this helps with is that it prevents the episodes that an MS patient will have of the new symptoms. So in other words, it targets those that suffer from relapsing remitting MS as opposed to progressive MS. And like any other drug, interferon beta also has its downsides. So downsides such as like flu-like symptoms or something like accessibility, or that it simply won't work. So flu-like symptoms is very self-explanatory. And with accessibility, it kind of goes to how a person just can't afford the drug, because the injection, because of how expensive it is. And then that it simply won't work goes back to how I mentioned that it targets those mostly that suffer from relapsing remitting MS as opposed to progressive MS, because it helps prevent those sudden episodes that a patient will have. So mapping the biology of MS. So at Duke University in 2012, a professor known as Mary Sheen O'Hara, she gathered a team and they did a study on mice with MS. So these mice all had MS, and then they came across two discoveries. So the first one, they found this giant immune protein complex that was in most of the mice, and then what they did was that they inhibited this protein complex, and after inhibiting it and using the injection of interferon beta, they found that the mice actually improved. So this protein complex is known as NLRP3. So they found that, and then the second thing that they found was that there was actually some mice that did not have the NLRP3 protein complex. And when they injected the interferon beta, they found that it did not work. So their initial thinking was that if they did not have the protein complex, they would be able to use the injection and the patient would improve very quickly. But on the contrary, they found that they injected the interferon beta when they didn't have the protein, and they actually did not benefit from it. So then they thought there is something else that's triggering the disease. So they did another study, and mostly targeted to those patients that did not benefit from the interferon beta injection. So what they did was that they looked into these mice, and then they found these two receptors, and the two receptors are known as CXCR2 and LTBR. So what they did was that they also inhibited these receptors with a molecule, and by inhibiting them, they actually found that the mice were able to improve. So then they thought, based on, it depended on the mice whether they had the two receptors or if they had the protein complex, and by inhibiting either, the neurological symptoms overall of the mice would help them improve. So then what they did was that Shinohara decided to kind of combine data with another study. So there was a study done in North Carolina, and it's known as the Murdoch MS study. But the difference is that with this study, they collected data on humans. So with the humans, what Shinohara did was that they focused on those humans that did not benefit from the injection. So when they looked into their data for those humans that didn't benefit from the injection, they saw an accumulation of the CXCR2 and the LTBR receptors, and they concluded maybe targeting these two receptors will help create a more successful treatment for MS patients. So present day thinking, there's a couple things to keep in mind. The disease does vary from person to person, so the treatment will vary as well. But two good things is that it brought more opportunities as to their new thinking and the new discoveries that they made. And then also, researchers are able to say that looking if a patient has these two receptors or if they have the protein complex, they're able to predict ahead of time whether a person will benefit or not from the injection, which overall just helps the patient buy more time, and it helps them not go through unnecessary procedures. So yeah, as of right now, they haven't actually done the studies on humans, like inhibiting these receptors or proteins, but it's something good to come across, and it's something good to keep in mind. And yeah, these are my references, and that's it.